All right. Welcome back to Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. And I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears. I'm not sure if that's dark for any particular reason, or if you guys even see that being dark. All right. Okay. So today's video is on, or today's episode is on open and closed-minded, and which are you? And there's another little caveat to it, and that is also, is there a benefit to both, or is there not necessarily a benefit? Like there's some interesting pieces that I want to go over here. And again, I'm not coming from like I'm the absolute correct person on the planet. Nobody's more right than me, blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing that at all. I'm sharing my insights and ideas and what I've been asked on a fairly regular basis by people to do. So without further ado, getting into open and closed-minded. Now, open-minded people, we'll say, arguably are people that are open to other situations and or events that may have new experiences for them, or they don't seem like they're quick to judge scenarios or situations, and giving people more opportunities to speak their mind or be, who they are. And closed-minded would be quick to judgment and more or less pushing their position onto others, and or maybe just not open to any change or experiences another person has. So we'll say that those are going to be the definitions for the two for the time being. Now, I really appreciate one of the things that, again, to quote Jordan Peterson, is a parachute opens whenever it has the right restraints. When it's effective when it has the right restraints. If there's no restraints, it's not a parachute, it's a sheet. The same thing goes with the mind. If you don't have borders or something that has you actually, how you doing, Bubba? Same thing, Yael. Nice to see you. You want to have enough that gives you something that makes you stand out and or that gives you your identity in the situation. If you're too open to something, it can be detrimental, because being too open to something means that you may not hold your ground. You may not even share enough of your perspective that the other person would be affected by the perspective. If you don't agree with something and you're overly open, you're also likely not to share that you don't agree with something and or change your opinion without really having a whole lot of rational understanding before changing your opinion. Lots of things are good there, Bubba. All right, I'm going to have to call you by William. It makes me seem like I'm getting a little too familiar over here. Appreciate you jumping on, brother. So as far as being open and closed, being overly open can be detrimental because you can change your position entirely too often, or you'll have an idea you don't really live into far enough to realize its value, and you're quickly jumping to another situation. It doesn't mean that being open is bad by any means. I'm not saying any of these things are good or bad. It's perspectives that to consider. Maybe there's another way of looking at things. Now, being overly closed is just as detrimental as being overly open. Being overly closed means you're never really going to have many experiences, and you also are likely to hold too many prejudices. And I don't necessarily mean that necessarily in the whole idea that most people find, the prejudices as the more modern statements and or almost convictions that people put out. Not in a racial way. Prejudice doesn't have to do with racism all the time. Prejudice could also have to do with just situations. It's a preset understanding of something that you may avoid or tell yourself you need to avoid. It doesn't always have to do with people. Now, with that being said, we know that there's two different ends. Now, something that I did poll this, and I've surveyed it on Facebook yesterday, and some interesting insights came through. One of those was actually the insight on the utility of being closed-minded and open-minded. Like the utility of being open-minded is ideal when you go into new situations, being open-minded enough that you can take in the information to make a better decision about what to do next. But being overly open-minded in situations like that means you may not necessarily hold much ground in what you're doing with something new to you. Now, on the other side, if you go in and you're too closed-minded, obviously you're not really going to allow much at all. You're just going to say, well, whatever, I don't care, and then fight whatever's going on in a way that you want other people to, take on your position or your viewpoint. So, now there can be utility to this. In let's say a firefight in a military situation, this could be obviously more of the extreme, but consider that there's times in your life that you might need to be a little more closed-minded enough that you don't have too many influences that make you change your decision or procrastinate your decision. So if you're in a firefight, do you really want to be overly open-minded to the point that you don't act, or you put somebody else that's supposed to be relying on you in jeopardy? You want to be open-minded enough to realize there's other people on the other side of the battlefield, but at the same time, you don't want to be overly open-minded. Now, on the other side, being overly closed-minded, it's my way or the highway, and I'm not going to try anything else. Utilities to it. There's always a benefit, and there's always a cost. It's just sometimes we don't really write up the cost. We usually just focus on the benefit. On the optimistic side, we focus on the benefit. On the cost side, we focus, on the pessimistic element, if you will. So, all right. This is not intended to be a very long video unless there's a lot of questions that come up. But I did want to thank the people that did involve themselves in the survey. As I see that a lot of people are going around putting this, you're closed-minded out there. Yeah. Being open-minded in a heated discussion isn't bad, but being overly open-minded in a heated discussion doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good either. If you ever talk to somebody and they never seem to hold their position very well, it's like you can't really pin them down on what they think. That can infuriate anybody in an argument. Like, I want to argue because I want to understand, but I also want you to understand my position, which is usually what an argument is. I need you to understand my position. Doesn't mean that necessarily you want to understand theirs, but open-minded arguments are more of I want to understand your position as well. So, thanks, William. Thanks for the question, by the way. It's a good one, or the statement anyway. So yeah, as far as it is, it's also kind of, they're rooted into optimism and pessimism. I actually, my last thesis was on optimism, not all it's cracked up to be, from practicality to ideology, or from ideology to practicality. Because I can talk for a while on optimism and pessimism, but these things are typically rooted in that as well. Somebody that's a bit more pessimistic usually isn't as open-minded, and somebody who's too optimistic is usually overly open-minded. Again, like a parachute, you want to have enough. You want to have enough tension that it functions as a parachute. You don't want to have so little tension that it floats like a sheet, because you're falling. All right. Any other questions that I might have in the chat threads here, YouTube or Facebook Live? I'm happy to answer or engage in any of those. I'm not going to take up too much time. Welcome, Brandy and Sarah, Carrie. Yeah. Again, I'm not doing makeup tutorials. I'm not doing, scantily clad things. I'm not trying to show you the best ways to work out, although I've been in the industry for well over 12 years now. I definitely can talk about exercise, weight loss, building muscle, all those fun things, but you've got plenty of people doing videos like that. We really don't have a lot of people that are doing videos that are dedicated to at least giving different levels of insight. If nothing else, stop for a second to listen to somebody else's position enough that perhaps they know something you don't know. And or sometimes, how do you have a conversation with somebody you already think is going to be an argument and shift that conversation into something or shift it from an argument into a conversation, stepping into something that you already feel is already doomed from the beginning. Doesn't necessarily mean it's doomed from the beginning. Looking for the insight, being curious. Now, for the people that know me directly, I'm not showing off any Corvettes, brother. Right? You want to see the Lambo and the big house and blah, blah, blah. And I read 5 books a week. And really, he's talking about he reads paragraphs. Oh, God. Those people, man, it's like they sell the dream, but I'm not here to sell dreams. I'm actually here to actually help buy into the work. And I really like to have people to chat with me. And I'll tell you what, my friend William that's commenting over here in the book or in the Facebook live portion, we've been friends for over 25 years. And I got to tell you, he's an extremely intelligent and insightful person that's had a lot of interesting experiences in life that's well rounded him off. And I'm grateful you checked in here, brother. But I really hope that we as a people can bring that into, more of an existence. Hey, Rachel, glad to see you jump on. Yeah, absolutely. And some point in time, by the way, William, I'm going to ask you to come on and just have, some conversations with me. I really feel that that's something that the people that do that check in will really appreciate on all of the platforms that I'm on. As this is, guys, this is not like a special attribute that I have or that William has or, like Steven Pinker has or Jordan Peterson or Paul Chek or, it's Einstein. Well, let's not go there. I guess he does have some special, or he had some pretty special attributes. But for us, I'll say that the keys are that we're just curious. And I don't try to let, some sort of, prejudice stop me from learning and developing. So I try to keep my mind open enough that I'll learn, but closed enough that I'll be able to, continue being the person that and not being so morphic in my behavior that you couldn't tell people who I am. So that's a benefit of making sure that you hold that position. Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that, my man. Let's, I'll message you after this, William, and we'll see about setting up a time we can try to get this thing going. Well, thank you, Carrie and William, in that, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the idea of smart. Carrie writes here is, we need more smart guys like you and William Harvey in the world. And, I agree, but I wouldn't necessarily say that we're smart as if it's some sort of like some sort of attribute that we were born with. I'd say it's more of a curiosity that we've shared in life, and it means that it's accessible to everyone. So everybody has opportunity and potential. Does not matter, the genetic capacity. I've had some of the greatest conversations with people that were considered learning disabled. Oh, hell, I was even considered learning disabled in middle school to the extent that I had to have special classes and all the rest of the stuff. And it was just that I wasn't, the teachers weren't accessing me. Oh, and I wasn't inspired. But it wasn't until later in life that I actually kind of like turned things on. And that came by way of, being like this, asking questions, getting engaged with people, caring to be engaged with other people, caring to be curious. So that's my goal with this. That's my goal with the channel. The overview of the Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia channel on YouTube is really, and I chose the title the way it is because a lot of us feel that because we're in the United States and we have the suburbs and we have these higher educations and we have all these things that have us feel like we're, like we're number one, and, we kind of fall short of being number one in certain areas because we get lazy and we take things for granted. And then there's the everybody's going to be like me conversation, and it's not true. So that's why it's Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. Not everybody's like me. Not everybody's like William. Not everybody's like Carrie. Not everybody's like everyone else. It's like we have different people in our life that influence us to look deeper into subjects and develop ourselves. It's just sadly, sometimes we make our strength become our identity. Oh, I'm good at math, therefore, I'll be an accountant. And then you kind of resent other elements in life because you're undeveloped in it, but you become a really good accountant. And then you may have, family issues and all the rest of the stuff. And that's just, it's a sad position. Yes, you did pass all your classes. I believe it, Carrie. And you cheated? What? All right, I won't go down that route right now, but that's the point of the show. That's the point of like what I'm doing with a Facebook Live and the Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia on YouTube, is that we all have different influences in our life, and I promise you, there are plenty of places that I am not developed anywhere near like this in. And I'm not saying that, like I get called professor by a lot of my friends, and I'm just like, I get the compliment and I take it more humor. It's more kind of playful, but I don't see that in myself, and I hope that other people don't fall victim to that. I'd rather that people just see me as curious, just like everyone else. That shows any level of intelligence, or intelligence being confused as curiosity, which I say they're actually very closely related and required of one another. But point being is that there are a lot of things that we can accomplish if we just start looking at who we are, how we grew up, and how we blame other people for not having the skill sets that we have, as that we do. Often we blame others for not having the same skill sets as we have, and how it sounds whenever you blame somebody else for not having the same skill sets as we have is where we say to others going, it's common sense. That's blaming other people for not having the skill sets we have. I really fight the urge to say it's common sense, because I use that knowledge and track it backwards and say to myself, I'm blaming somebody else for not having my skill sets. Whether it's patience, whether it's the ability to walk through a situation, try to come up with a solution to a challenge, or whatever it may be. I realize that other people have different importances in their life, different areas of focus, different areas of work, and it's not up to me to blame them for that. So that's why I put that out there, because it's easier to connect with somebody instead of make them wrong. It's easier to make a bigger impact if you connect than make them wrong. So, all right, that's it for the video today. Appreciate you guys checking in. If you have any other questions or anything, I'm happy to answer them, or at least engage with them. William, I'm going to message you here in a bit so we can see about setting up a time and making sure I've got the right system set up to get you on with me here. But other than that, guys and girls, really appreciate your time. Appreciate your effort to be on here, and also to, stick it out through the video. By all means, please share in the comment section what you're taking away, what you've learned from this, or insights that you've had, things that you'd like to see me talk about in the future, or if you feel that you'd have a good conversation with me, then you'd like to come on here as well. By all means, shoot me a message on Facebook, or comment in the threads, or on YouTube. Subscribe. Please go to YouTube and subscribe. That does actually help out quite a bit. For us that are making content, eventually that does build up to the point where we can actually make something on the back end. So, all right, with that, again, it's Chad Everett Brochures, the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. Thank you for checking in, and I look forward to our next video and these future conversations. Remember, guys and girls, we're in this together. Let's build something, and let's build it smart and curious.